Okay, hi, I'm Christine Baker. My business partner and friend Nellie Holmes and I, we own Upper Canada Quilt Works and Quilt Works Studio, and we really focus on handwork, embroidery, punch needle, needle felting, all of those, wool applique, all of those hand crafts. And one thing that I like to do that we have a few supplies for, and we might be bringing in more, is punch needle, rug punching. So we've carried punch needle supplies for a long time, and I have lots of punch needle patterns that I've done, but rug punching is something that's a little newer to us. So people are really starting to notice it, and it's really gaining popularity. And we've brought in quite a few different supplies that you use for that technique. So one of the things that I'm going to do, I'm going to just kind of show you some samples, and then I'll talk about the supplies, and then I will do a little demo for you. So rug punching is also called punch needle, but you use a larger needle and larger thread or yarn than you would use for miniature punch needle. So punch needle or rug punching samples would look something like this. And sometimes you would display them from the back instead of the front. So you might find things online on Pinterest that are punch needle and they look like this. So with rug punching, you can actually display them from either side because you don't leave as much space in between your lines of stitching as you do when you're doing miniature punch needle. So this sample I actually did with some strips of actual fabric. It is homespun fabric, that's the word I'm looking for. And you can see on the front, it has faded quite a lot. The threads that I used faded a little bit too, but the homespun's definitely faded a lot. This sample here was done with yarn, so it's all with yarn, and this is the back of it, so you can see how the lines are showing more there than they do on the front. So, and then this one is actually a rug hooking kit that I bought, but I decided to punch it because when I first started rug hooking, I was having a lot of trouble getting all my loops to be even and in a line, and it really stressed me out. So I kind of gave up on it. It was taking me forever to do anything just because I was stopping and pulling up all of my loops so they'd be perfect. And I just wasn't enjoying it. When I found rug punching, I really liked it because I loved punch needle. So I decided that I would try rug punching. And this was done all with a rug punch. So with an Oxford punch needle using wool strips that were in the kit. This kit was from Hooking Rugs. So Loretta Moore, she has online, she has all sorts of different rug hooking kits that you can get. And I just wanted to show you that you can get a rug hooking kit and you don't have to hook it, you can punch it. So that's what this was. So this is what the back looks like of it. And you can see all of my loops are totally lined up and all perfectly level. And that's because the punch actually dictates how big you make those loops on the front. And I'm going to show you that in my demo. Now, this is something I wanted to show you that I hooked because I've recently gotten back into rug hooking. And the reason that I love it now is because I'm doing it in a different style. So I went to Deanne Fitzpatrick's studio in Nova Scotia and took a class from her. Well, it was a retreat that I went to, and saw how she hooks. And she hooks much differently than people who do like traditional rug hooking where everything's lined up and everything's flat. And you can see I've mixed yarns and I've mixed some of my felted wools, and it gives it a totally different look. This is the back of it. It's a little messier than some of the other ones. But I really love rug hooking with this type of technique. It's much less structured and you can make the loops however big you want. So this is sort of my newest thing that I'm doing is rug hooking in the Deanne Fitzpatrick way. So getting back to rug punching. So the punches that I use are the Oxford rug punch. Okay, so I hope you can see that. We have 2 different sizes in stock, and you use them for different types of threads. So this is the basic one that most people use. So this is the number 10 1/4 inch, and you use it for like 1/4 inch strips of wool. So like felted wool like this, like you get in a rug hooking kit, or you can use rug punching yarn, or you can use any other types of yarn. Wool, this is a wool yarn that it comes with a sample just to show you how it's threaded. And it comes with a gauge in it, so you can see how many stitches you should be getting per inch. And then it has a little book, an explanation or an instruction book. And on the back of the book, you'll see all the different sizes of the punch that you can get. So this one is the number 10, the number 10 1/4 inch. There's also a number 9, a number 8, a number 13, and a 14. And the 14 is the other one that we carry. So it is a little bit smaller, and it uses a much thinner yarn. So there's the yarn that it has, okay? So it makes, you can use it for much thinner yarn. So if you want to use something like a worsted weight yarn, that's what this one would use. So the other one uses a bit thicker yarn than this one does, okay? But I like the other one because you can also use wool strips in it. So this is mine. So this is the number 10. And it makes a 1/4 inch loop. And you saw on my other sample that the 1/4 inch loops are a 1/4 inch. They're all a 1/4 inch as long as you punch in as far as the needle will go. So I'm going to tip this screen down so you can see my countertop. I hope you can see that all right. So here is the sample that I'm going to work on. This is primitive linen. So we carry this in our website. It's a new product to us. We've got it by the yard. And then we also have monk's cloth. I haven't opened this bolt yet, but I hope you can see. So this monk's cloth is the one that you would use for rug hooking or rug punching. And you want to get, if you're buying monk's cloth, you want to get the one that has this line on it. So this line indicates that it's the one that you use for rug hooking or rug punching. You can buy other types of monk's cloth, the ones that they use for Swedish weaving, and they don't work all that well for rug punching because they don't hold, they're a little bit looser weave than the monk's cloth that you use for rug punching. But I had a piece of this linen, so I'm going to demo it on the linen. And you just draw your design right onto the linen, and then you want to put it in a hoop. So this hoop that I'm using is one of our Morgan non-slip hoops. And this one is a size 10, I think, 10 inch. Yes, this is a 10 inch. We also carry smaller ones. These are the ones that most of the time you use for punch needle, miniature punch needle. But we can get larger ones too. And we can also get ones that have 2 different hoops. So there's a small hoop on one side. There's sort of like legs, and then there's a bigger hoop on the bottom, and you can flip it over. So it's kind of makes it into a stand. So if you need to use the bigger hoop, you can use it on the top, or you can use the smaller hoop on the top. So it's kind of neat because then you've got 2 different size hoops that you can use. But we do carry these ones in our website, and if you look under punch needle supplies, they're listed in there. So I've loaded it into my hoop, and you want to make sure that it's quite tight. So I don't know if you can hear that noise it's making. It's kind of like a drum. When you're rug hooking, it doesn't have to be that tight, but when you're punching, it does. Punch needle, like miniature punch needle, you need to have it really tight, and when you're doing rug punching, you need to have it really tight. Okay, so once you've got your base cloth in your hoop, then you start ready to go with that. So we need to thread the punch needle, and this punch needle is so much easier to thread than the miniature punch needle. When I do my punch needle course online, we have Punch Needle School, which is online now, and I go through all the different steps of doing miniature punch needle embroidery. Threading the punch needle video is quite long, and I tell people to watch it quite a few times to get the hang of it. But with this, it's super easy. So I'm going to start just using a piece of yarn. So this is Lopi wool yarn. Now to thread this needle, all you do is lay it along that groove. Hope you can see that. And shimmy it back and forth so that it goes in. And then you're going to take this end, the free end, and put it through the eye of the needle. So I hope you can see that. Okay, so now just give it another little tug. And once you can pull it back and forth like that, then you know that you're ready to roll. Okay, so it's in there, and I want a little tail at the end. Okay. So just like with punch needle, with rug punching, you start with the smallest details and then work your way up to the bigger details. So I'm going to start just stitching these lines down here on my large pumpkin. So you just punch it in until it stops and then come out. And then move a little bit and punch in again. Move a little bit and punch in again. You're not punching in every hole. You're more punching a distance, okay? And you kind of get the hang of that as you work on it. Hope you can see what I'm doing. And you can use the little gauge that comes in the package with the punch, with the rug punch, to see if you're punching the correct distance in between each of your stitches, okay? So you can see I'm going to get to the end of my line here. Now with miniature punch needle, we just clip these ends off on this side, so on the back of the piece. But with this type of punching, we want all of our ends to go to the top. So I'm going to flip it over. You see my little stitches that I put in there. I'm just going to take my little curved scissors and clip that off. Okay, and then I'm going to pull my needle out. So on this first stitch, what I usually do, because I've got the tail hanging down on this end, I usually take a rug hooking hook and just pull it up to the top. And you don't have to do that like after each thing that you've stitched in. You can wait and pull them all up. Now, I think these first stitches I put in are a little far apart. So see, you can kind of see space in between them. I'm not going to worry about it right now, because when I put the other stitches in around it, it may fill it up a little bit and make it look a little better. And if you don't want a really defined line, then you can do that as well, is kind of make your stitches a bit farther in between, and then it won't be quite such a strong line in your background. So I'm going to leave it there. Now, the same thing with rug punching as with miniature punch needle. If you had put this line in and you didn't like it, then you can easily just pull up on the one end and pull it right out. And because you're not actually breaking the stitches of the base cloth, then you can just kind of scratch them back into place. Okay, so I've just scratched and now they're all going straight again, and I can put that line in again. So maybe this time, I'll say I didn't like that one, and I'm going to use a piece of wool fabric instead. So this is felted wool cut into a 1/4 inch strip. So if you were to buy a rug hooking kit, you would probably get these already cut in that size for you. So with this, you just do the same thing, but you have to put it on its edge so it'll fit into that little groove. So it's a little harder to get it in. But same thing, you take the free end, just kind of fold it in half so it gets through the eye of the needle, and then pull. Okay, so once it's in there, you'll see it kind of flattens out, and you can't really see it in this groove anymore. So same thing, we're going to start with a little tail, and then we're going to put that line back in. So do the same thing, punch in and out. Okay, and I'm just moving a little tiny bit in between each of my stitches. Now I think this little strip is going to run out before I get to the end, but that's okay. Just keep punching until you run out of wool. Oh, and that was the end of it. So there it is, the end. So I'm just going to pull it out and leave it up there. Okay, so there's my little loops from that. And you can see they're all perfectly flat. If I had tried to hook that, it would have taken me 5 times that length of time to get those all in nice and flat like that. Now, the other thing you can use, and this is kind of a fun product, is sari silk. So this is recycled silk from saris in India. And you can buy it on eBay. That's where I got this one. It comes in all different colors, but it's nice and shiny. And if you ironed it out and flattened it, the pieces are quite wide. They're almost like 3/4 of an inch wide, you can see. But they come like all scrunched up, so it makes it into like a yarn. So we're going to I'll show you what that looks like when you punch with it. So I use it in my rug hooking quite a lot because it adds like a whole other kind of look to it because it's nice and shiny and pretty looking. Now it does kind of knot, it comes knotted, so I'm going to cut that off actually. Each of the pieces are knotted together to make a long section. So when I'm hooking, I just don't hook that piece, but if you're punching, it's going to get stuck. So I just cut it off. So you can see I'm just doing the same thing and just following the line and punching along till I get to the end. And then, oh, perfect. I ended up at the end with the end of the sari silk. So you can see the difference in the look. This one's kind of a flat color and this has got a bit of a sheen. So you just punch your details in first and then you punch your outlines. So anything that you're filling in, you start on the outside and then work your way in. So here, I would have started on here and worked all the way around this pumpkin until I got up to here. Couldn't go any farther because I'd already put these little details in. So then I went around here and then back down and filled this whole area in. Then came over here and filled this whole area in. And that's all you do. You just put in your small details first and then fill in all your areas as you go. So if I wanted to have this as the good side instead of the back, I would have been more careful and I would have filled in so that you couldn't see any of my monk's cloth in between all of these lines. But because this is the back of my piece, it didn't matter to me that you could see that on the back, because on the front, the threads puff up a little bit and they use up a little bit more room. So you can't see any gaps in there. But if I had done that, if I'd left a bigger line in between and I could see a gap here, all I would do is go in and take my needle and put another line of stitching right in between. And that's what we do with miniature punch needle as well. If you happen to leave a space that's too big in between two of your rows, then you just go in and put another line of stitching right between. And as long as you're using the same color, you can't tell from the front because they're not really lined up in little rows. You can see sort of see that they're in rows, but it's not as noticeable. So you can do that easily. Just fill in your area. So that's the back. So you just keep working and filling it all in. And then there's lots of ways that you can finish the edges. So this is just a wool. So it's a wool strip that I sewed to the front and then just flipped around to the back and then just hand stitched it. This is sort of my preferred way of finishing them now. So I have a piece of cotton clothesline. First of all, I cut my backing. I zigzagged the edge and then I cut it about maybe an inch bigger than the size of the rug. And then maybe a little bit wider than that. I zigzag the edge so it doesn't fray, because this stuff will fray like crazy if you don't zigzag it. So that's one thing I didn't mention. I had zigzagged the edge of this before I drew my design onto it, because if you don't put something on the edge, you're going to have threads all over and your base cloth is going to evaporate. So you can either take masking tape and put it along the edge, or if you have a serger, you can serge it, or I just zigzagged it on my sewing machine. So you do the same thing when you're finishing. I zigzag that. Then I lay the piece of clothesline down, folded the edge of the base cloth over, and then whip stitched it with yarn. And I really like the way it gives it a nice heavy edge. And as long as it's laying somewhere, it's nice and flat. It doesn't look so flat when I'm holding it, but when it is actually like pinned up on the wall or on the floor, it does lay flat. But it gives it a nice edge that's well covered up. This one had the same type of edging as the first one. It was just wider. So this piece of cloth came with the kit, so I just finished it the way she suggested that you finish the rug after it was hooked. And you can see it has faded a little bit just from where it's been sitting. But yeah, you can use all sorts of threads and all sorts of yarns and different felted wool, and you just keep working away at it, just filling in the areas until you're finished. So I just wanted to say we do have a couple books in stock. So I'm just gonna put you back up a bit here. Oh, hello. So this book is a punch needle book, and it's called Punch Needle, Master the Art of Punch Needle Accessories for You and Your Home. So the one on the front is a rug punched rug, made into a pillow, it looks like. But she does talk about different ways of turning your punch needle pieces into accessories for your home. She talks a little bit about miniature punch needle, but mostly it's about rug punching. And some of her pieces are the back, like that's the back of the piece. That I would call the back, but she's made that into the front. You can tell because it's flat. You know, if it's the other side where the loops are, it's not flat. So you can tell that some of them have been punched. So this one, it looks like it's a combination. So she's, from the front, she's punched through, and then she worked from the back and punched through and got these so that they would come out higher than the background. So that's kind of a neat technique as well that you can do with this. So we have that book in stock. And then we also have Amy Oxford's book, which just came out a little while ago. And she's the one who invented, I guess, all of the Oxford punch needles. So this book is amazing because she goes through everything you need to know, and it's a thick book. So it's got lots of patterns. It's got all the information about how to finish them, how to block them. It's amazing. This book is really amazing. So I'd highly recommend, if you wanted to start doing rug punching, that you look into getting this book for sure. This one's nice because it's got some different ideas for things, but this is more of a resource that you would use for learning how to do it the right way. So I think that is all I had to say about rug punching. So I'm going to turn off my video, hopefully.